What are we talking about this episode, guys?
Well, this is our poll list episode, isn't it?
It is.
What's
a poll list? Melanie, since we both seem to ask the question to dodge the answer.
The poll list is a list and a poll.
Oh.
It's a list of books that the readers have decided that they want us to read, and we add them to the list, and then you all get to vote every time. I think you can vote once a week?
Yeah, once a week.
You can vote once a week for the book that you want us to read next month, and then the winner is the book that we do read next month, but we'll leave yours on there until we get to it.
Yep. You can go to grawlixpodcast.com and it's all there on the website.
Yep. And last month, the book that you all chose for us to read was Wonder Woman
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
How about, before we talk about that, so that's what we're talking about this episode. We're going to be discussing Wonder Woman Paradise Lost. Why do I have a much more podcastery voice this episode than I feel like I did last episode?
You snapped into some radio voice there.
How about, hey, Jesse, I bet you have the answer to my next question.
I bet I do too. What is your next question?
What is the next poll list winner? So what are we reading this month for next month?
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand the question. I think the answer is that next month we will read and discuss Superman, American Alien with 40% of the vote. We have a couple of Marvel books after that, and Deadly Class are on the list. So listeners, our poll list is starting to get thin, which is weird because we had it seemed like we had 12 books on here at one time. We're down to, after next month, we're down to 3. So if you have suggestions, you can add them.
Or you could hasten the end game and not and see what happens in 3 months.
You could do that too. You could vote for just the 3 and then never add anything ever again.
What happens when we run out? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. There's only one future where we know what happens.
We can't help ourselves.
We can't.
Superman, American Alien, that's been on there for a while.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, that is the Superman book that was, I could be wrong, but I think it was written by Max Landis.
Yes, that's what I read earlier today.
Yes.
Is that it is that one.
He wrote that movie we talked about in a pre-show this month.
Oh.
You could listen if you feel like supporting the Grawlix podcast, you should go to patreon.com/Grawlix podcast and you can listen to over 50 bonus episodes sitting there just waiting for you. $1 a month and you could listen to all of them.
Listen, some of those pre-shows are actually better than the real shows.
They are.
They really are. The real shows, we confine ourselves to a theme or a review because we feel we must. But the pre-shows, we can just talk freely.
Yeah, and we do. Maybe a little too freely sometimes.
Oh, a little too freely. We're finally out of Patreon jail, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Yep.
We feel the need to really skirt the line and push our luck because, hey, come at us, bro. Bro being Patreon.
We're so much more restrained than most other podcasts, though, to be honest, even in our quote-unquote unedited stuff, but whatever. Just don't listen. You can be as dirty as you want on a podcast. Just don't tell them in text form or the system will ban you.
They'll automatically red flag you.
Yep. So poll list poll list review segment. Let's get on with this. Let's jump right to it.
Let's all get to our least favorite of the big 3 DC heroes.
Is that because she's a woman?
Shots fired.
Possibly. I don't know. She's just my least favorite.
Okay, so, oh my gosh. All right. Wonder Woman, Paradise Lost. It's been on the poll list for a little bit. If you are the person who added this, I would love for you to write into us and first tell us how wrong we are after you hear our review. And also, I'm very curious as to the reasoning behind adding this. I'm not accusing. I'm not saying this is a bad way to start this, but I'm very interested in why this specific Wonder Woman story got added? Is it like your favorite, or do you think it would appeal to us with the Gotham connection? I was kind of thinking maybe it had to do with our riffing on Batman, like becoming seduced by Themyscira and trying to sexually assault Wonder Woman in Trinity.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious as to when and why this got added. However, Melanie and Jesse were good. They read this book, and for the first time in over 5 years, I did not read the entire pull list book. This is the only time. Only one other book has made me as angry trying to get through it, but I got through it, and that was when we talked about, I don't remember, some Star Wars book.
Oh, yeah.
I was so mad about it. This one, I couldn't.
You
couldn't
said
do it.
Grawlix this book.
I said Grawlix this book, but I didn't say Grawlix. So I did read a portion of it, and I'm not going to pretend to review this whole book because I didn't, I'm not that way. I didn't read the whole thing, so I can't speak to the whole book. But I can speak to what I did read, and Melanie and Jesse did both read this book. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's do like we always do. Had you guys read this book?
No.
And what were your initial impressions?
No.
Nope. I had no idea what this book even was.
I had not read it either. I have not read a lot of Wonder Woman. I don't know about Jesse, but Melanie, you actually have read a bit of Wonder Woman.
I have.
I think the New 52 stuff, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, my favorite parts of it were the Greek god things.
Of Wonder Woman stuff that you've read
Yeah,
in
because
general?
it was very heavy on that.
Okay. What did you guys think?
I thought this was from the 80s.
To be honest, so did I.
Yeah.
It has that feel in both art style and storytelling style.
So when was
it's
this?
from 2001.
What?
It's 2001.
I would have thought 90s maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty crisp for 80s, but the storytelling style and the artwork is so 80s.
Yeah. The hair, man.
Yeah.
There's
The
so much hair.
Maybe it was kind of I don't know. I mean, it collects several issues from the Wonder Woman run at the time, and Wonder Woman Confidential or Secret Files or whatever. Like it's a couple like picks and pulls from a few Wonder Woman.
And I mean,
series.
I know that there was a bunch where they had Hippolyta as Wonder Woman, and that maybe her big hair was confusing to me and made me feel more 80s because hers was curly like. But no, all of them had big hair, and it all felt 80s to me.
Yeah.
George Perez and Phil
Jimenez.
yeah. Perez for sure. Like he was around for a long time, so maybe that's why it's got kind of a 80s vibe.
Sure.
Right.
I don't know.
All I know is they got some hair for days.
Do they have like a synopsis for this? Because like that's one of my thoughts on this is this is a weird collection.
It is.
Like it's put together weirdly.
Most of the synopsis I found, for the most part, only talks about the Gods of Gotham. I think that's what it was called, the Gods of Gotham storyline. It was like a 4-issue. God, that was only 4 issues. 4-issue arc. Yeah, it felt so long.
It did.
Those are some long issues.
Honestly, I was surprised when there was more after that.
Yes, agreed. I think 4 different times I was like, "What? This is still going."
I mean, if you're looking to maximize, your looking to get a bunch of book for your buck, like that's the way to that's great because it does feel like that storyline would be its own little trade.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to get through a book before you got to record a podcast, I'm like, there's still 100 pages to go.
Right.
What's happening?
Yeah.
It's split into 3 separate stories. They're very, very distinct from each other. They don't mush really at all. Well, maybe there's a little bit of carryover, but they're completely different.
So even if you go to dccomics.com, the actual DC website, and you can buy this trade, I'm assuming digitally. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you can order physically, but it's like $15. And their synopsis is Batman's home, Gotham City, is being transformed into a land resembling ancient Greece, lorded over by evil gods. And once the gods of war, discord, fear, and terror combine their essences with those of the Joker, Scarecrow, and Poison Ivy, Batman finds himself in the need of help from Wonder Woman. But when the gods decide to merge with Batman as well, and spoiler,
Yeah, whoa.
that's like way towards the end.
Yeah.
That's the one, like, for me, the one redeeming part of this, kind of. But when the gods decide to merge with Batman as well, the Amazon princess finds that even the aid of Gotham's other protectors, Nightwing and Robin, as well as her own protege, Wonder Girl, it may not be enough to end this evil reign. That's it. It doesn't mention... That's maybe 70 pages out of 170 pages. It doesn't mention any of the other stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because the title references what happens at the end. Like, doesn't the this Paradise Lost thing has nothing to do with the Gotham thing.
I'll start because I want to get my stuff out of the way, I guess. Okay. Whoever suggested this, thank you. But I don't know where this goes wrong. I kind of do, but like this should work for me. It's got, Greek gods and Batman and Gotham, and this should work for me. This does not work for me in the slightest. I found this so dull. And part of the issue is everyone is so talky and yet no one says anything.
Right.
Nothing. None of it matters. Nothing of what they say. It's all just grandeur and grandstanding nonstop. And this central idea is interesting enough. They're invading, like, they take over the bodies of these, like, key Batman villains, and, Wonder Woman's going to go. And there's some interesting ideas. There's some religious discussion, which I found was interesting. And it's none of it's really, like, bold enough to, be controversial, but it's not often discussed in like big two books, at least that I'm aware of. But I don't care. It's so boring. Like the writing is so boring. Why are they talking?
I concur.
What is happening?
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. I mean, like, yeah, this book, exactly what you just said, it checks all the boxes. I like Greek gods. Check. I like Batman. Check. Let's put them together. Should be awesome. It's not.
The idea of Joker, especially, and any other villains, but especially Joker, to me, letting another entity take him over to, further. And I do love the bit, just because where whoever it is, I don't remember which one, jumps inside of Joker, is actually getting contaminated by Joker because he's too crazy. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, why is there so much talking? And you're right, it doesn't mean anything. It's just blah, 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 blah. That has no bearing on the story.
When I decided to stop reading this, I was like, is it just me? I mean, I talked to Jesse a little bit, and you as well beforehand, and I knew like you guys were kind of having trouble with it too, that it was a bit of a slog. But I also looked up some reviews because I was like, is it just me? Is it just us? And generally it's well reviewed, except a lot of people will say the first couple of stories, so basically 2/3 of the book, are not good. They're difficult to get through.
The first one, partially too much explanation. You don't need to tell me every character's, every thought and how they got there and what they want to do with their life. I don't care. But besides that, this one I should have liked, and I forced myself to kind of like it, I think, even though it was annoying through a lot of it. But once we hit the second part, I did stop. Like I read the first part way early in the month, and I hit that second part, and I'm like, is it not over yet? Really? Right. And I did not start reading it again until like last night, because I was like, I care nothing about any of this. Honestly, that's exactly what I did too. Like I read through, I didn't quite finish the Gotham storyline. I read through almost I think I was on the last issue way earlier in the month, and I kept meaning to come back to it, and like I'd open it up and I'd read a page or two and be like, oh God, okay, whatever, there's time, I'll get back to it. And then it was last night. Yeah. And I tried to force myself through more of it, and I finished that and started the next thing, and I was like, I'm done. This is not. And I was telling Jesse earlier in the month when I was like, this is hard to get through, because I actually had been reading some comics lately. Like
trying to beef up my reading again because I fell way behind on everything.
Mhm.
And I read, I read one of the TKO Studios books, and I really liked it. I read Batman White Knight because I don't know, I published an article about the sequel that's coming out before long, and I really liked that a lot. And so I was like, okay. So I started this, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is hard to get through. And then I was even like, well, I fell off of like current DC quite a while ago, so how about that Dark Knight's Metal? I'll pick that up. That was a big, huge event thing. I fell off just before that kicked off, and I'm very curious about it. I like Scott Snyder, of course, and Greg Capullo, the New 52 Batman team. Yeah, I want to read more of that stuff. And I tried, that's a big crossover, so it's kind of a cluster to try to figure out a way into it. I started with what looked like the first issue I tried to read that. Interestingly enough, it starts with Wonder Woman and Batman together going into a cave, and it's just exposition and grand, like, here's what happened 1,000 years ago, and this god and this and this and this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I just I tried, and I read I've read a little bit into it, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. And then later I came back to Dark Knight's Metal, and I was like, you know what? Forget all the tie-ins and everything else. Just the core actual Dark Knight's Metal series. I'm gonna issue 1. Forget all the lead in. I'm just gonna jump into it. I couldn't do it. It's the same thing. And that really just throws you into it. Like, you open the book and they're in the Justice League's on Apocalypse, like in the middle of a gladiatorial fight, and then the narration is like, and then 1,000 years ago. I'm like, why are you doing this? I just couldn't. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
So part of me, I'm sorry, I know I'm going on, but I'm gonna stop talking in a moment. Maybe it's just like my complaint with Blood Realm.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just like a lot of big epic story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care. Batman White Knight was interesting because it was just character stuff. It wasn't, there's plot, but there was a lot of character stuff, and it was interesting, like diving into the psychology of Joker and this and that, and kind of political stuff. So I was like, it must just be I'm not feeling this big bloated story of epic histories and Greek gods where it's just the characters don't matter.
Right.
But then I felt bad because I'm reading the reviews, and they're like, the best story is the Wonder Woman Lois Lane thing. It's all character. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try jumping to that, getting back to the book at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was too late. I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe it is all character work. I don't care. I think they've ruined Wonder Woman. I don't care about Wonder Woman in this story.
They've ruined Wonder Woman.
She's so boring. I mean, she is the female Superman. Yeah. She's so milquetoast. I'm here to spread love and peace, which usually doesn't work, so I just got to punch people in the face. But it's just love and peace is I don't care, Wonder Woman. I don't care.
Yeah. And you flipped to that part, and you're like, look at this. And it was the page you picked was there's tiny little pictures of them in these boxes full of
this
dialogue.
So wordy.
It was
so
all
wordy.
dialogue.
A lot of words, yeah.
If it was interesting, that'd be fine. And I'm sure it is. And I think my mindset was probably just ruined on it.
Well, I mean, that second part was basically exposition. It was it was almost like it's like they were trying to forward the plot a little bit or get you ready for this Paradise Lost story, but it was mostly just a recap of Donna Troy.
Yeah, it's like Wonder Girl and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It kind of, yeah. It was let's tell the story of Donna. Let's tell the story of this other group that was elsewhere in Egypt, and then we moved them here, and then how they fight with each other, and then how, all of this history. And I'm like, okay.
So is that where the one chick from Trinity comes from?
Yes.
The younger chick?
Yes. And so maybe that's the
okay.
tie-in. We read Trinity, but it feels like this book was added. Maybe they were added at the same time as Trinity. Maybe this is all kind of maybe we read them out of order. Maybe we would have enjoyed that character more had we read some of this, but we didn't really enjoy this. So
yeah.
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 Yeah, they didn't go about it in a very good way. If they wanted to they should have just spread the whole thing out and had all of this be the Wonder Woman and Diana Troy stuff, whatever the hell her name is. And then made us care about them at all.
Yeah.
That would have been a smarter thing to do.
And maybe in context, because, a lot of this is pulled from the Wonder Woman series, ongoing series. So I'm assuming if you're reading the Wonder Woman ongoing series, you care about the characters.
Right.
Well, why wouldn't they just take a chunk of that and make that a book then?
Maybe it's the Batman thing. Like all the synopsis talk about that first 4-issue
That's
art.
because Batman's so much more interesting.
They use him as the selling point.
Yeah.
And then you get past that and it's all actual Wonder Woman stuff. But
Well, and so that other storyline, I mean, it's kind of 2 storylines with a postlude, is what I would call that, the Lois Lane thing. Is it's kind of like the aftermath stuff, like all this stuff has already happened and now this is how Diana is dealing with it or trying to cover it up or a little bit of both. So the second story is much more, I mean, like there is some interesting like political things that you could even say apply to what's happening now in our politics, which makes it a little less prescient considering this was actually written in the 2000s. I actually thought it was older and just happened to be prophetic about some of the things that we're seeing in American politics. But like it kind of comes down to you've got the old guard Amazons who have just run Themyscira via dynasty for however long, and then you've got this other group that's been begrudgingly accepted into the island, but never really made to be a true part of it. And so that was always going to end poorly. And this is basically that story of how they have been manipulated. Both sides have been manipulated and it blows up in their face kind of thing.
I don't know that I do know, but I feel like maybe I'm supposed to know who this Magda chick is and whatever the spirit that's inside of her.
The Fury.
I did not know who they were, and I'm glad they didn't explain it to me though, because that would just would have been more that I didn't need.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that were going on that I didn't really understand either, and yet the characters did understand.
Yeah.
And they kind of gave us this backstory of I'm the reincarnated vision of this spirit or something or person, and I've been inhabiting this body of this crazy witch person, and I've been kind of behind the scenes Machiavellian style putting all the pieces in play, and then yet there's this other character that's got the Furies inside of her or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's that character?
Weird.
See, they should have spent more time spreading that stuff out so I could have known who she was, because she was pretty cool. And she had like this big evil take her over for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then she like murdered this chick like super easy. And then she was like back to normal and she's like, "Hi, Mom." And I'm like, see, that's a character I want to get to know.
And she like off screen beats the crap out of Donna and Wonder Woman. Like Wonder Woman and Donna Troy are just like, "Blup, we're done." Like off screen, just like, "Oh, turn the page. Oh, they're unconscious. We already beat them."
So yeah, see, they could have done stuff with this. But anyways, it wasn't great, that middle bit. But I don't even know how much of the next one. I think some of it was just her being her, and there was like a little bit of her maybe trying to cover up or deal with her stuff.
So
from that,
yeah. So like,
but I think a lot of it was just her normal.
Yeah, basically Lois just following Wonder Woman around.
Yeah, being jealous.
Yeah, that was it. But I like that's the part that I did like about it was like was basically the fact that Wonder Woman is milquetoast. She is the female Superman, and Lois spends most of the time like hating her because of it. like you're so stupid perfect. I stupid hate you as much as I stupid love you.
Yeah. Did I mention she doesn't wear makeup?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, like the very first part, like, it's 6 a.m. and she doesn't wear makeup, but she smells great.
Yeah. It did bring up some relationship issues that I think that maybe we weren't aware of. Like Clark doesn't apparently share everything with Lois, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, well, a little thing like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I fought side by side with your husband for 1,000 years, and we never told you about it.
I'd be pretty off if I was Lois.
Yeah, I think she's got some cause to be a little alarmed here.
I mean, not at Wonder Woman, because she seemed surprised. I thought that Lois didn't know about it either. But
Well, Wonder
Yeah.
Woman has that stupid lasso making her always tell the truth.
the one thing I was talking about to Randy, that it's supposed to maybe give you feels and stuff about it, but it did the opposite for me. I'm like, so you can teleport here and there all over the place into your sister's $1 billion loft,
Yeah.
but you can't rescue these 4 dying infants from Rwanda and take them to a hospital? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, that's true. Yeah. She
I
she
mean, I don't
teleported
know.
there just long enough to hold a dying baby.
hmm
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Didn't think of that until now.
You know, her community outreach type stuff that she does, playing games with underprivileged kids or whatever, and all that stuff, and talking to the UN. That's good. I don't know why she would ever talk to Lex Luthor. She should know better by now.
Right. Yeah, there's this
But-
whole scene where she goes to Lex Luthor for help, and it just, of course, goes badly.
This is during the time he was president?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say he was president?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, she's like, I need
If
to.
only we had a president that smart. Okay.
Yeah.
She had to go address the UN about some stuff, but she's like, but I think because of the Civil War, it won't have as big of an impact and blah blah. Can we just try to keep it quiet so that I can get done what I'm trying to get done? And he did the opposite, obviously, and like everybody knew about it and laughed at her, which is still weird. I doubt that would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have snickered about it and blah blah blah. That doesn't seem like a very UN thing to do, especially considering most of them, I'm sure, have had civil wars, and no, it's not that simple.
And Wonder Woman's been on the side of saving the world how many times, and they've all benefited
Right.
from it. It's like, I don't.
Yeah.
You would hope that would never be. I mean, like, you don't just laugh at an Amazonian with super hearing.
Yeah.
One does not simply. Sorry.
Yeah,
That'd be-
yeah. One does not simply walk into the UN and laugh at Wonder Woman.
I'm confused too, because I thought her mom was going to be Wonder Woman, or Hippolyta. I thought she was coming back to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's how that ended. Yeah, the Civil War ended with her saying, "Okay, the old guard has to go, and I am the old guard, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to be Wonder Woman."
Yeah, so what does that make Wonder Woman?
Right, and yeah, they didn't address that hardly at all.
Yeah, I know. And they kept calling her Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Oh, and then
So-
she was on The View, basically.
Yeah, I made Randy look at that one.
That was pretty funny. That, I mean, like, because you have all these characters that are like, oh yeah, you would be on the DC version of The View.
Yep. I'm like, I read it first. I read him the character's name, and I looked at it, and he's like The View, and I'm like, no, it's The Scene.
It's the scene. It's
I thought that was
this
pretty
is
funny.
totally different.
That was pretty funny. And that's when I looked at the date, because I'm like, wait, isn't this from the 80s? The View wasn't even a thing. Like, I know there were similar shows, talk shows, but then that's when I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is 2001 or 2002. Okay, yeah, I guess The View was a thing at that point. So, okay, I do want to. I'm sorry if you guys have more to say about those other stories. Like, yeah, you continue with that. But I do want to say, definitely, by far, my favorite thing about what I did read of this book, and thumbing through the rest of it, because I beat myself up a little bit about not reading it. So I'm like, well, maybe I could just maybe it gets better. So I did thumb through a bunch of it. The art, I thought, I mean, the style is interesting. That's why I thought it was 80s. But the art looks great.
Mm.
I liked the art quite a bit. I even like the kind of 80s throwback hairstyles,
I like
because
the
that's classic
style.
comics to me.
You know, like I like how people are rendered and whatnot, but there was times like there's just parts where I was like, it took me out of it, because it's like, here's my notes. It's very of the times, because I thought it was written in the 80s or 90s. And I said art was obviously for dudes. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
there was all sorts of like weird sensual posing and costuming and like weird panel cropping. Like there's this one panel that's cropped, I mean, obviously Wonder Woman's costume is off the shoulders, but so they cropped it so all you see is Wonder Woman's face and bare skin.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, that's a weird way to crop that. And then later on, there's just like, hey, we're gonna continue this conversation in the bathhouse, which I know is a thing in Themyscira because who cares? It's, it's island of women. So, bathhouse, fine. But like women are probably not the ones reading this book. So of course we've got to have a conversation in the bathhouse. Even when they get knocked out in these weird togas that I'm not even sure they were wearing earlier.
I don't think they were.
And I'm like, why are they knocked out in togas that are just barely covering the good bits or the bad bits or whatever?
And I think I remember there being a conversation or two about bodices that I didn't think was really necessary.
Right. Like, I mean, I guess that was my main nitpick about the art style is that it's probably not just the art style. That was probably, it was probably written into the script, but, it was rendered. So I thought
interesting. Okay.
some unnecessary things that were depicted, I guess.
Patriarchy!
Yep. Yep. Land of the patriarchy.
Objectification aside, that probably did ramp up a bit more, especially once they got to Themyscira and stuff. But one thing I did want to say, because we mentioned Trinity, maybe that's another. I do appreciate that essentially, because I know I riffed on like, she's all about love and peace, and but she's Wonder Woman, she's got to punch people. Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate, at least in Gods of Gotham, or Gotham Gods, whatever it's called.
Goth-American Gods.
Goth-American Gods, yes. That's right. That's right. I do appreciate how she ultimately resolves it, is she talks Ares into basically taking care of his kids. Mm-hmm. And then when he's like, well, I think I'll stick around and take their place. And then she talks him out of that. So I'm like, I guess when I think about it, she essentially resolved the issue, and she did it by convincing Ares, by talking it out, basically. Mm-hmm. And I know one criticism we had of Trinity was that she's Wonder Woman, yet she was bound many times and she was saved by men, and like she just didn't really have the agency. And so I guess maybe there's a bit of that. I just couldn't really tell in what I read, because there were just a lot of characters and a lot of people doing things.
As like one of my arguments, or one of my criticisms of this book is that sometimes the resolution was anticlimactic. Like, I mean, I don't know how else you're going to resolve a war against the gods. Like, unless you are a god, that's how you have to resolve a war against the gods. So I can forgive it for the first one, but like the way that this whole Civil War thing ends and it's funny because even was it Artemis or somebody even says, what, that's it? She's just dead and it's over. And that's how the Civil War kind of ended, was boom. The perpetrator of the whole thing just dies. You're like, the Fury
Suddenly?
Chick just goes, thump, and then the other guy was like, what, that's it? That's how this ends. Which I thought was maybe the most funny meta moment of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Then Hippolyta just like, she quells the whole resistance by flying up above everybody with the lasso of truth around her and says, yeah, I've made mistakes and I'm relinquishing my crown. Civil War over.
Yeah.
Like, what? No, it's not that simple. Come on.
Well, but still, even after that, it said, by the morning, all the fighting had died down, so They didn't instantly stop. But yeah. Fair enough. I just thought some of these things were just like, okay, it's over. I think they should have had more lesbian relationships, and then that wouldn't happen.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in an island full of them, apparently there was only one maybe relationship. I know, that's what it seemed like. I was like, that's weird. You'd think there'd be a lot more hooking up amongst the ladies, but
yeah, like a lot.
Yeah, I know. But whatever.
And maybe it's because they briefly touched on this in the Titans DC Universe live action series. But of the character stuff I did grab onto in what I read, maybe I wouldn't, but am most interested in reading more about Nightwing and what's her name's relationship. Is it Donna?
Oh, Donna Troy, yeah.
Yeah. But she's already Isn't she like divorced and has a kid and stuff?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
only
all
read the
that.
one.
Yeah, all that. Well, I think she lost all of that. Like that was part of the
Oh.
recap or whatever. But again, they just kind of like they recap her whole life, but they don't really dig into it at all.
And she lived like 1,000 lives or something too. So who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, I want to hear about her life with Nightwing.
Okay. One thing I did like about the last part, which was better than the other parts, she hits on some guy at some point, and yeah, she does seem like desperate, like a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And he totally shuts her down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. Humble that bad word.
Humble that Wonder Woman. Make her wonder.
Yep.
Okay. Did you guys have other stuff to say about it?
I don't know. So who do we recommend this to? Do we recommend this to anybody?
Some feminists.
Really?
The feminists. Oh, those feminists.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more thing.
Okay.
He's the ultimate god of fear.
Oh yeah.
I'm very torn. Like, I like the idea of then, like, he possesses Batman and his fear powers is intensified. So that's fun. He looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, he should look way cooler. Like,
Yeah.
he looked ridiculous. But he was doing horrible things to people. It gets a little dark in that area. So I don't know. Conceptually, I kind of liked it. There's a lot about like that story that I liked conceptually. I just did not care for the execution.
Well, and I guess I kind of went the opposite direction with my thoughts on the art, but I would definitely agree with you in the art, particularly in that storyline, because I thought that the character designs, with Batman being the exception, I would double down on that and say, yeah, that was the least interesting of the the deifying, of a Gotham character. But like the Joker with the snake hair was pretty rad.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It was weird. Yeah. Yeah, that was all right. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's got that classic kind of 80s comic book look, and maybe that's just the styling of the hair and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's super clean, like super clean lines, very nice color. So maybe that's part of it, what appealed to me about the art. But I didn't finish the book, so I'm not going to recommend it just because, I mean, if you're hardcore Wonder Woman, this might, if you're hardcore Wonder Woman, this does probably appeal to you. And I'm sure there's good stuff in there. I just didn't, I don't know, have the patience for it, I guess. But I didn't finish it, so obviously I'm not going to recommend it to other people. This is the first
I would
time didn't
recommend that
finish.
they break it into 2 books, because
Yeah.
I don't think that the 2 parts meshed at all. I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
There's got to be, and maybe there wasn't at that time, but there's got to be more like Batman Wonder Woman team up they could do. I do like that they kind of warm the relationship between the two a little bit towards the end, because they even have other characters. Like, I get the feeling they they don't really like each other, and that's how it's played, like in Trinity, for example. But Trinity was handled it weird, but that's also kind of an Elseworlds tale. But I don't know, their relationship could have been interesting. It's just, again, there's not the little bits of relationship stuff in this. I actually are the things that I kind of liked, but those are like 2 panels out of 100 or out of 70 pages I read.
Yeah.
So everything else just wasn't.
When they made Maxie Zeus like just a lackey in this thing, it's like if there was ever a Batman character to be all in on this weird crossover, it would be Maxie Zeus, and I don't feel like they really capitalized on that at all.
And they killed him, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. He did. He died. Spoilers.
I mean, obviously it's a
It's
it's a comic.
ruined it, but yeah,
It's a comic book. I've seen him since, but
right.
then again, I guess the DC universe has been rebooted.
I gotta think there's a better Wonder Woman book out there to recommend.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not gonna recommend this other than the art's pretty cool and there's some interesting thoughts. And if I was going to recommend any part of it, it would probably be that Lois Lane thing. But I bet you that was only one issue. I bet I would just recommend that one single issue if it's affordable to track down, or if you can get it on Comixology, then track down that issue, I guess.
Yeah, I bet it's a lot less than $15.
Maybe it's on the
Yeah.
DC Universe app because they have pretty much everything in single issues. I haven't been able to find any like graphic novels on there, so you probably track it down that way.
When I was looking for quotes, movie quotes and whatnot, and I found some Wonder Woman quotes, and there's a quote that comes directly from that issue of Wonder Woman that is cited as one of the uplifting Wonder Woman quotes. So, I mean, like, at least that issue has some impact, and maybe that is why someone would recommend this as a watershed moment or whatever the word is.
Maybe they're trying to fight against my woman card carrying self or something. I don't know.
They wanted you to have a reaction to Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Well,
How do you feel it was in that respect? Do you feel it talked down to women? Or do you think it was okay? Other than like the art, the sexy artwork, apparently.
I think, I mean, I don't know that I can talk to it, but it seemed okay because it's pretty much most of the Civil War was.
That was
On
just
a-
chicks fighting each other.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's just,
You can't really be sexist there.
yeah.
I mean, what I read was innocent enough. Like it was
If there was
just
anything,
a bunch of guys and a bunch of women, all
yeah.
equal.
If there was anything sexist about it at all, and it wasn't really even, it would have been some small interactions in the last one where, she's like, her and her sister are going to move in together and watch ice cream, eat ice cream and watch movies and, stupid crap like that.
Dish on
drink wine.
boys, yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
boys.
Just stuff like that. But that's, that's not necessarily sexist because that's what a lot of girls do. It's
Right.
just,
Well, girls are sexist.
some of them are.
No, just okay. I'm
It
sorry.
was a pretty basic portrayal.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, this
I
was.
think that's that. That's that for that book.
This is a first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think pretty universally, we're not much going to recommend this one.
Mm-mm.
Sorry to whoever put it on the poll list if this is your favorite Wonder Woman book, but this was not ours.
That's the thing. Okay, so with the poll list, that's something that me and Jesse talked about a little bit offline, and I mentioned it to Melanie too. Is like the problem with if I'm not saying I hated it, but the problem with the poll list a little bit is we're all like we're not crappy people. We're not looking for stuff to hate, and if we read something we really don't like that was suggested on the poll list, it gives us conflicting emotions because on the one hand, we want to be like, yeah, F this book. But on the other hand, we're like, well, somebody put it on the list. Chances are they put it on it because they like it and they want to hear our thoughts of it. And so it makes me feel bad to then come on and be like, F this book and F you for putting it on there, whoever it was. You have terrible taste.
Okay.
Which is not what I just did. But,
I will just say I never have that conflicting emotion.
I know.
I'm going to say the truth about how I feel about it. And you are allowed to disagree with me. And I'm not saying if you for putting the book on there. That's fine. Put any book you want on there. I'm going to hate half of them and I'm going to love half of them. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
You just accept it.
Right.
Well, I know. I'm just,
Oh, I think it's not like we shortened our review of this book.
No.
I think we've tried to dissect it and give it its day in court or whatever.
And did you notice we did the opposite of what we usually do? And when we normally were like, I liked it. And then we tear it apart. And this time we're like, I hated it. And then we're like, but this was okay. And that was all right.
It is
that
interesting
our
how we do
approach,
that.
isn't it?
That's true. Well, I think, I could be wrong. And if there's anybody who's still listening, maybe they'll disagree. But I feel like that makes for a more interesting review than we all love it. And, let's just talk about what we like. Because
Right.
we do try to, even in my case, I'm like, I didn't even make it through the book. But at least for what I read, I'm going to pick out some things I liked. And then also rant a bit about the things I don't like.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when we do like a thing, we, it's boring if people just praise it. We go at it objectively.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem for me was just how this book was laid out. And every time it came to an end, I was like, oh God, it's over. Oh God, it's not.
And too much dialogue. That's
Right.
That's hands down what the problem was for most of it is there's way too much dialogue.
Yeah, too much nothing dialogue. What I read, like
It'll
But
put me in a
and
negative
it's a
mood.
comic book. It shouldn't have that much dialogue anyway.
Yeah, some of it is super heavy, dialogue heavy, like, ooh, those pages I seen at the end. But if it's interesting, I can. That's fine. I'm not opposed to reading some words, but what I read just wasn't interesting. Like it feels like a waste of time. Where I'm like, there's some nice artwork here. Let's embrace that a little bit. Because what I'm seeing in the words, I'm not enjoying. It's just
That's some nice artwork you got there.
That's some nice artwork you
It'd be
got
a
there with the-
real shame if somebody was to put text all over it.
Yeah. I mean, and to add to the throwback feel, some of it, like, it did feel a little Marvel method where I'm like, I could see what's happening in the pictures.
Yeah.
I don't
You
need
don't
the
have to
character's
explain it.
internal thoughts. Like, it's redundant. If you're going to give me a character's internal thoughts, make it interesting or relevant. I don't need redundancy. You're wasting my time.
They didn't even, I don't even know if they had thought bubbles on this, did they?
They did. At
They
least
did.
in the
Okay.
first part.
So
yeah.
it was old school, yeah. I was to say, almost all the new, like, modern books have kind of done away with thought bubbles entirely.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Maybe the exception of Deadpool, because he just speaks those out loud anyways.
You have characters thinking, I'm afraid because of this. And it's like, oh, okay, wow. That's
Yeah.
I'm afraid because there is a war and it is happening and I am in it.
like, show me, man. And I get it's not a movie. Like the movie thing is show, don't tell. But that does kind of extend to comic books to a point. There's some things you can portray in the art, and then I don't need you to tell me it again in text.
Right. That's exactly the point of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the difference between like the last Halloween, right?
Or the long
Wow.
Halloween or
Whatever. Yeah.
Batman?
Yeah, Batman.
Okay.
Like that one was mostly words.
Mhm.
And I like that.
Again, yeah,
But that was so much more a book than any other.
we've read some
What's-
super wordy stuff.
What's the criteria that makes it? Maybe it's because they didn't try to pretend like it was a freaking comic. It was a book with some comic pictures in there.
It just comes down to, like, regardless it's wordy or not, if it's boring or if you're, because I found it would be panels and panels and pages of characters saying things.
like Huntress and Artemis just having a theological debate.
Well, and even that wasn't so bad, but the gods, I think, were the worst of it, where it's
Yeah.
just, they're just talking nonstop for panels. And it's like, when I think back, I'm like, the last 5 pages I read, what happened in the plot line? Nothing.
Nothing.
What
right.
happened character-wise? Nothing. What were all those words I just read? Because I didn't get anything from them. It didn't mean anything. It's just sounding big to sound big. It's because the writer apparently really liked to write this grand-sounding Greek god dialogue and exposition, but it's not interesting, and it's not serving the characters, and it's not serving the plot. It's just wasting my time.
Right.
And it's covering up those togas. No, I don't. There were no togas in that point. But
Ooh, toga.
yeah,
Shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Wonder Woman.
I like to read. I like reading a lot.
yeah.
So
But for you, still,
no, yeah, it was crap.
yeah. Well, I mean, and not to attack the writer,
Yeah,
writers.
No, I am
but-
attacking the writer because it's their fault.
Well, I mean,
Don't do it that way.
but maybe it's just, again, mindset or just taste, because some people, I'm sure, are really into it, really into that grandstanding Greek god stuff. And I like Greek god stuff, but I just didn't really find this interesting. And
You mean like the people who like the 4 endings of the Lord of the Rings? Because they don't exist, Randy.
God, that movie just keeps ending, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's still ending somewhere.
One does not simply end the Lord of the Rings.
Endgame was close. It didn't quite hit it, but it was close. At a certain point, I'm like, how many endings do we need? Come on. But
You get an ending, and you get an ending, and you get an ending.
I guess when end is in the title, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And you get an ending.
It's a game of ends. That's all it is. It's a game of endings.
God, even now I'm still thinking of Endgame. We talked Endgame last episode, listener. I'm still thinking of Endgame. There are some straight up bad edits in that movie. Like, there are cuts that are bad. Like B movie, like they lost footage, so they just said forget it and cut a chunk. And I have a feeling that's probably from trying to get it down to a 3 hour.
Oh yeah.
Within a 3 hour area.
Like how long is this originally? Like what? Like, they're going to release an extended version, and there should not be an extended version to a 3 hour movie.
There's two scenes that stuck out to me. I know this is not even what we were talking about, but there are two scenes that stuck out to me while I was watching it where and it's usually like there's two characters in a scene. One person's on one side of the room, one person's on the other side, or they're whatever. And the person's on the other side of the room. It cuts. It doesn't change scene. It doesn't indicate a passage of time. It cuts, and the person like is standing next to them instantly. And I'm like, that's like amateur or B grade bad movie editing. Like, what is that? And I have a feeling there's some of that was just we gotta start cutting. We gotta get stuff out of there. Oh, he's walking across the room. Waste of time. He's there instantly. They're superheroes. They could teleport. Between cuts, okay.
To tie it back to Wonder Woman could have used a few more cuts.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Not
Come
the
on,
movie.
guys.
This book did.
Yeah.
There was no Paradise Lost here. They kept every inch of film in this book.
yep.
It's
they stole film from other books.
It is not a perfect metaphor.
Again, like if you were buying this, like anytime if you love yourself some Wonder Woman, you're like, I want to buy some Wonder Woman, like this $15, but $15, and you dig the story. This is pretty good.
I would not.
This is a
long
tome.
story.
I would return this if it cost me $15. Honestly.
No, okay. I'm not gonna keep ranting about it.
Okay.
God, that Gotham story. There are so many pages, and it's like, what's happened between 10 pages ago and here? Nothing.
No,
They're still in the same place ranting. They're in the same freaking building ranting at each other for 3 issues straight.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The only thing that happens is more characters showed up so that he could just get sidelined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Tim Drake. Oh.
Yeah.
Where did Harlequin go?
Yo, my God. Harley Quinn was so annoying in this thing.
She didn't get it. She's just not getting it.
Like, come on. She's not that
Mr. J,
stupid.
like that works for a joke for a few pages, maybe an issue.
They had to
But
do
it was
that several times in several issues.
Yeah, the whole time she just like,
Not
Mr.
funny.
J,
It's not funny, Puddin'.
stop it. How many times did they have to tell you? Like, you see what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not. I know, and Jesse like felt he was trying to get in White Knight because I mentioned I read Batman White Knight, and
I couldn't get it.
Eventually-
I finished this book today.
leisurely sometime when you get around to it. Yeah, I recommend it. I really like what they do with Harley Quinn
Oh.
in Batman White Knight, and it's an Elseworlds tale.
Mm-hmm.
But he does something super clever. You know, our Harley Quinn's changed. There's like the older style Harley Quinn, which is more, you know, Batman animated series.
Yeah.
And then modern Harley Quinn is much more Deadpool-y, and she dresses differently. They kind of play into that, but they actually make Harley Quinn smart again. And I think at some point one of her or somebody even mentioned, so like, I was a doctor. So like a psychologist.
Yeah, I was a
or
psychiatrist,
whatever. Yeah. So I really like what they do in Harley Quinn in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested. Do you think there is, I mean, like without spoiling anything, because it's been announced, there's a sequel to it already, right?
Yeah.
Is it set up well for a sequel?
I think it's coming out. I think it's coming out this summer sometime.
Okay.
It's okay. So that's one thing I was unsure because I didn't read it till after, you know, whatever I don't remember, Curse of the White Knight or yeah. So I was like, oh, well, does this like end on a cliffhanger? No, it feels very contained. Like,
okay. I wondered.
If a sequel was never done,
it would be fine.
it'd be totally fine.
Right.
But I like, what's his name? Sean something Murphy. But I like kind of the version of the world he created. So yeah, I'm kind of excited.
So you're game to come back.
I'm game to come back. And also some stuff happened at the end. You're like, well, where would you go with the story after that? So I'm interested to see where he goes given the end of the first one. And I would say White Knight, it's an Elseworlds tale. It was part of it's DC Black Label or whatever they call it. It's their Marvel Max.
Oh, sure.
Apparently one of the other Batman, I think Batman the Damned or something, like they had to reprint and alter some things, take out Batman's penis. So they went pretty hardcore, I guess.
Having Vertigo wasn't good enough. They had to have
a
couple imprints for this.
But this doesn't feel exploitative like that. I don't remember what. I'm sure there's some adult stuff, but it doesn't feel like, forced like that. It's just a Batman story. And for the most part, there are a few notable changes in characters. This could almost take place in regular continuity, but then there's definitely some stuff that happens by the end where you're like, oh, well, they wouldn't let that fly in regular continuity. So
yeah. Did they murder Joker?
I'm not saying anything because that's part of was kind of cool about it, because you're like, well, maybe they could, like, you don't know what's going to happen, because being an Elseworlds tale, there's actually possibly stakes that aren't necessarily going to get reset the next time a new creative team comes on or whatever.
Right.
Random comic book recommendation: Batman White Knight. I know I'm like 2 years behind the curve on this, but or at least a year, but yeah, that was a good book. I'd recommend that.
Okay, good job, Brandy.
I don't think there was any Wonder Woman in it, though. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Harley Quinn done right, though.
I love Harley Quinn in certain situations.
In-house news. I know it's weird that we hold this to the end of the episode now, but I figured we'll probably lose less listeners if they don't have to sit through pimpage for 20 minutes before we get to the issue.
For real.
The one thing I can think of offhand, it's coming up soon. The end of next month. I know that's a little ways away, but really it's just over a month now.
So get your tickets.
We're going to be at Comic-Con or Ocon Expo. It's not Comic-Con anymore.
Okay.
Comic-Con started suing people, and I think that changed things for a lot of Comic Cons. Ocon Expo 2019, which is in it's the Omaha Comic Con, but it's in
Council Bluffs, Ohio.
Council Bluffs, which is close to Omaha. It's probably cheaper. Plus, they have a good venue for it. We're going to be there. Jesse's always at these things. He's going to be there with his Tank Zombie Studios, but Grawlix is going to have an official presence. We're actually going to be there at our own table. Mm-hmm. Me and Melanie and Jasper and Jesse when he pops over from Tank Zombie.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited and nervous.
You're excited and nervous.
The nervous is starting to sink in. Like before, I was just excited. It's getting closer though.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. You guys are gonna be fine because you're gonna be behind the table. It's like a magical barrier that makes you the authority. So yeah.
I'm actually worried I'm gonna get really bored.
Maybe. So
you should visit us so that we're not spoiled.
You're in a pretty high traffic area, so I don't know that you'll. I mean, I think there'll typically be people kind of wandering through. We'll find out. I don't know.
Talk to me?
Are they gonna what?
Talk to me?
Yeah, that's
Really?
That's what we're gonna be doing.
Oh.
We're gonna be talking the whole time.
Okay.
Kind of like when we record a podcast. It's weird.
Yep. See, just treat it like that.
But I can guess.
Well, I mean, if they're not children present, but you're good with kids, so.
Yeah, I am.
And there's going to be a lot of interesting networking that can happen between, there's going to be other podcasters there. So if there is a lull, you'll just get to talk to different people. Sam Jones is going to be there. So Jasper and you should just like randomly walk by his table and be like, ah!
So awesome. No doubt. I should walk by and say, he saved every one of us. He's probably like, oh God.
He's like, oh, enough of this.
Flash. We get it.
He's like,
oh. It's like 30 years ago.
I can't walk anywhere without Queen playing in the background.
Like, I did other things. Like what?
I was a
super rude.
quarterback. No, you weren't. That was fiction.
Jesse, do you have any other in-house news? What do we got?
Basically just more con talk. I'll be doing a thing at Rainbow Comics and Collectibles at the beginning of June. And then I'm also going to Smallville. There's a Comic-Con in Smallville, Kansas, and all that's with Tank Zombie Studios. So if you are out and about and you like comic-y, cartoony art stuff, we are there.
And that's where Superman was
Yeah.
landed.
Yeah. I think we actually, some of the guests that are going to be there, I think there's some Superman guests this year. They don't always get
That's
Superman
pretty
guests, but I mean, that's pretty cool to have Superman at Smallville.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I don't believe we have any letters because we usually don't the second episode of the month because we record these well in advance. But
Right.
if, listener, you would like to send us your opinions, listen, if you would totally agree, if we're dead wrong about this Wonder Woman, and we might be, I want to know why. You tell us all about it. Tell us you love it. Tell us what you like about it, where we missed the mark, and how you're never going to listen to the show again. Or you could just be encouraging. So, whatever. Tell us your thoughts. Send us an email or an MP3 to letters@grawlixpodcast.com. It's LETTERS, letters@grawlixpodcast.com. There's also a phone number. You can leave a voice message. Nobody ever uses it. I don't remember what it is. Maybe I'll cut it in. Maybe I won't. 559-426-664-27559-426-664. Four comics.